Welcome back. It's Mystique here, continuing our masterclass on the science of getting rich. Today, we're diving into chapter 3. It's a short chapter, but it is packed with revelation, power, and practical truth. This one answers a huge question that so many people wrestle with. Is opportunity monopolized? In other words, is wealth really locked up by a few, leaving the rest of us shut out? Wattles gives us a bold answer, and as we go through this chapter together, I'll show you how it connects to the world we're living in right now. So let's get started.
Chapter 3. Is opportunity monopolized? No man is kept poor because opportunity has been taken away from him, because other people have monopolized the wealth and put a fence around it.
Okay, the writer comes out swinging right from the gate here. He begins by slamming down a truth that's hard to digest in today's world. No man is kept poor because opportunity has been taken away from him, because other people have monopolized the wealth and put a fence around it. What he's saying here is radical. Wattles isn't denying that systems exist. He isn't denying that corruption exists or that power structures try to hoard resources. He's saying that even with all of that, your opportunity is not stolen. Why? Because opportunity is not a limited pie. It's not something you can fence in like cattle. It's infinite. It's universal because it originates in formless substance, God, source, spirit. Now, this doesn't mean privilege doesn't exist. It doesn't mean nepotism doesn't exist. It doesn't mean unfair advantage doesn't exist. It means that no monopoly can block the divine channel of abundance from reaching you unless you accept that belief as your reality. If you buy into the thought they've taken it all, you sign a spiritual contract with lack. This is a reset moment. Wattles is reminding us that scarcity is a thought form. And when we stop agreeing to it, the monopoly breaks. Think about manna in the wilderness. Pharaoh could hoard grain in Egypt, but when God rained manna from heaven, nobody could fence it off. That's the metaphysical principle here. Spirit creates endless supply beyond man-made systems. Let's move on to the next passage.
You may be shut out from engaging in business in certain fields, but there are always other channels open to you. It might be hard for you to get control of one of the great railroad systems. That field is pretty well monopolized. But the electric railway business is still in its infancy and offers plenty of room for enterprise. And it will be only a very few years until traffic and transportation through the air has become a great industry. And in all their branches they will give employment to hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions, of people. Why not turn your attention to the development of aerial transportation, instead of competing with J.J. Hill and others for a chance in the steam railway world? It's quite true that if you're a workman employed by the Steel Trust, you have very little chance of becoming the owner of the plant where you work. But it's also true that if you begin to act in a certain way, you can soon leave the employ of the Steel Trust. You could buy a farm of 10 to 40 acres and engage in business as a producer of foodstuffs. There is a great opportunity right now for those who will live upon small tracts of land and cultivate them intensively. Such men will certainly get rich. You may say, it's impossible for me to get land, but I'm going to prove to you that it is not impossible, and that you can certainly get a farm if you begin to act in a certain way.
This is where Wattles practically hands us a time machine moment. This paragraph is a prophecy dressed as practical advice. Wattles is saying, yes, some industries are locked down. You might not become the owner of Amazon, Google, or Walmart tomorrow. But Spirit is always birthing new industries. The airways looked impossible in 1910, and now we have entire economies built on aviation, space travel, and logistics. And here's the key. The certain way is portable. It doesn't matter whether you're farming, coding, designing, or teaching tarot online. The science of getting rich works in any field where you apply it. Now let's bring this into 2025 reality. Number one, the railroad systems of our day, the steam railroads. Wattles talks about are like today's monopolies, big tech companies, AI giants like OpenAI, Google, Microsoft, mega retailers like Amazon or Walmart, social platforms like Meta or TikTok. Trying to outmuscle them as an individual is nearly impossible, but their dominance does not cancel your opportunity. Number two, the aerial transportation of our day. Wattles told his students to look toward the industries that were still in their infancy. Today, that means AI and automation, not just building it, but guiding people in how to use it. It means digital micro business, Substack, Etsy, Patreon, Gumroad. It means wellness and the spiritual economy, coaching, astrology, EFT, tarot, sound baths. It means sustainable living, urban farming, solar energy, ecotech. It means virtual and augmented reality, training, education, immersive ritual spaces. Every generation has its next thing. Those who step in with faith, not fear, ride the wave. Number three, the farm principle. When Waddle says you can certainly get a farm, he's not just talking about dirt and crops. He's saying own your production. In 1910, that meant land. In 2025, that means your digital farm, your YouTube channel, your Substack, your online shop. It means your creative farm, courses, books, intellectual property that grows and sells long after you plant it. It means your spiritual farm, your practices, affirmations, rituals, meditation, EFT. These yield transformation for you, and they can also become a service to others. The principle is simple. Don't just be a consumer or an employee forever. Begin to own even a small tract of production, and spirit will multiply it. Number four, the voice of it's impossible for me. This is despair talking. Wattles called it out in his day, and it's still here in ours. It's impossible for me to start a business. I don't have money. It's impossible for me to break into tech. It's impossible for me to compete with AI. But Spirit is saying it only looks impossible because you haven't yet aligned with the certain way. Once you do, doors open that you couldn't see before. This is Isaiah chapter 45, verses 2 and 3. I will go before you and make the crooked places straight. I will break in pieces the gates of brass and cut in sunder the bars of iron. And I will give you treasures of darkness and hidden riches of secret places. No monopoly can gatekeep the treasures Spirit has hidden for you, but you'll have to believe that for yourself. Let's continue.
At different periods, the tide of opportunity sets in different directions, according to the needs of the whole and the particular stage of social evolution we've reached. At present, in America, it is setting toward agriculture and allied industries and professions. Today, opportunity is open before the factory worker in his line. It is open before the business person who supplies the farmer more than it is before the one who supplies the factory worker. And it is open before the professional man who serves the farmer more than it is before the one who serves the working class. There is abundance of opportunity for the man who goes with the tide rather than trying to swim against it. So the factory workers, either as individuals or as a class, are not deprived of opportunity. They are not being kept down by their masters. They are not being ground down by the trusts or combinations of capital. As a class, they are where they are because they do not do things in a certain way. If the workers of America chose to, they could follow the example of their brothers in Belgium and other countries. They could establish great department stores and cooperative industries. They could elect men of their own class to office and pass laws that favor the development of such industries. And in a few years, they could take peaceful possession of the industrial field. The working class may become the master class whenever they begin to do things in a certain way. The law of wealth is the same for them as it is for all others. This they must learn, and they will remain where they are as long as they continue to do as they do.
At different periods, the tide of opportunity sets in different directions. It shifts according to the needs of society and the stage of evolution we've reached. In Wattles' time, he said the tide was flowing toward agriculture. Today, in our time, the tide is flowing toward technology and AI. It's flowing toward the creative microeconomy, Substack, Etsy, Gumroad, YouTube. It's flowing toward wellness and spiritual professions, tarot, astrology, EFT, coaching, therapy, magic. It's flowing toward the green economy, sustainable energy, regenerative food, eco-housing. The point is simple. You prosper when you move with the tide, not when you try to fight against it. In Waddle's day, factory workers thought they were kept down by monopolies and trusts. But he said no, they were where they were because they hadn't yet embraced the certain way. Today, that same mindset shows up when gig workers say, Uber doesn't pay enough, or when employees say AI is taking all our jobs, or when creatives say the market is too saturated. But the truth is, the law of wealth is the same for everyone. If you step into the tide of opportunity instead of swimming against it, you rise. Wattles gave the example of Belgium. He said workers there created department stores and cooperatives. They organized, pooled resources, and elevated themselves as a class. We see the same pattern today: created collectives, communities buying land together, open source platforms, and shared economies. Systemic power isn't unbreakable. When people align with spiritual law and take practical action, the script flips. Because wealth is not about class, it's about consciousness. Proverbs 23:7 says, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." It doesn't matter if you were born working class, middle class, or upper class. The law of wealth is impartial. The tide is spirit's flow, and anyone who steps into it rises with it. So here's your reminder: I flow with the tide of opportunity, not against it. The law of wealth works for me, regardless of my background. What looks like a ceiling is really a call to rise in a new way.
The individual worker is not held down by the ignorance or mental sloth of his class. He can rise with the tide of opportunity toward riches. And this book will tell him how. No one is kept in poverty by a shortness in the supply of riches. There's more than enough for all. A palace as large as the Capitol in Washington could be built for every family on Earth using only the building material found in the United States. And under intensive cultivation, this country could produce enough wool, cotton, linen, and silk to clothe every person in the world, finer than Solomon was arrayed in all his glory. It could also produce enough food to feed them all. Luxuriously, the visible supply is practically inexhaustible. And the invisible supply is inexhaustible. Everything you see on earth is made from one original substance, out of which all things proceed. New forms are constantly being made, and old ones are dissolving. But all are simply shapes assumed by one thing. There is no limit to the supply of formless stuff or original substance. The universe is made out of it, but not all of it was used in making the universe. The spaces in, through, and between the forms of the visible universe are permeated with this original substance. The raw material of all things, 10,000 times as much as has already been made, could still be made, and even then, we would not exhaust the supply of universal raw material. No man, therefore, is poor because nature is poor, or because there is not enough to go around. Nature. It is an inexhaustible storehouse of riches. The supply will never run short. Original substance is alive with creative energy and is constantly producing more forms. When the supply of building material is exhausted, more will be produced. When soil is depleted so that crops and clothing materials can no longer grow, it will be renewed, or more soil will be made. When all the gold and silver have been dug from the earth, if mankind is still in a stage of social development where it needs gold and silver, more will be produced from the formless.
The individual worker is not held down by the ignorance of his class. He is not trapped by the limits of his background. He can rise with the tide of opportunity toward riches. And here's the truth: no one is kept in poverty because there isn't enough supply. That idea is a lie. There is more than enough for all. Wattles said a palace as large as the Capitol could be built for every family on earth, using only the material in the United States. That's a picture of abundance. You are not poor because the earth ran out of bricks. You are poor if you believe you don't deserve the palace. He goes further. Under intensive cultivation, America alone could produce enough food and clothing to cover the whole world in luxury, not survival. Luxury, the visible supply, is practically inexhaustible, and the invisible supply, the spiritual supply, is completely inexhaustible. Everything you see on earth is made from one original substance. All things come from it. New forms are constantly being made. Old forms dissolve, but the source never runs out. Call it formless substance, call it spirit, call it God. It is the raw material of the universe. And here's the wild part: not all of it was used in creating the universe we see. There are oceans of untapped supply still available, 10,000 times more than what's already been made. So no one is poor because nature is poor. No one is poor because there isn't enough to go around. Nature is an inexhaustible storehouse of riches. Spirit doesn't deplete, it multiplies, it regenerates. When the soil is exhausted, it is renewed. When one resource runs dry, another emerges. If humanity still needs gold or silver or energy, Spirit produces it again in new ways. This is Psalm 24, verse 1. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. Fullness, not lack. This is Jesus feeding the 5,000 with only 5 loaves and 2 fish, enough to feed a multitude, with baskets left over. That is the law of original substance. It does not deplete, it multiplies. So here's your reminder. I live in a universe of infinite supply. Original substance flows through me, producing new wealth every day. I cannot exhaust the source. The more I draw, the more it multiplies.
The formless stuff responds to the needs of man. It will not let him go without any good thing. This is true collectively. The human race as a whole is always abundantly rich. And if individuals are poor, it is because they do not follow the certain way of doing things that makes the individual rich. Formless stuff is intelligent. It is stuff that thinks. It is alive, always impelled toward more life. It is the natural and inherent impulse of life to live more. It is the nature of intelligence to enlarge itself, and the nature of consciousness to expand and find fuller expression. The universe of forms has been made by formless living substance, throwing itself into form to express itself more fully. The formless stuff responds to the needs of man. It will not let him go without any good thing. This is true collectively. The human race as a whole is always abundantly rich, and if individuals are poor, it is because they do not follow the certain way of doing things that makes the individual rich. Formless stuff is intelligent. It is stuff that thinks. It is alive, always impelled toward more life. It is the natural and inherent impulse of life to live more. It is the nature of intelligence to enlarge itself, and the nature of consciousness to expand and find fuller expression. The universe of forms has been made by formless living substance, throwing itself into form to express itself more fully.
Now, just a minute. Let's slow this down a bit because this is one of Wattles' deepest metaphysical passages. He's not just talking about economics anymore. He's talking about the mind of the universe itself. The formless responds to the needs of man. That means the universe is not indifferent. It's not dead matter. It's alive. It hears you. When you have a real need, the formless begins arranging itself to meet that need. That's why inventions and breakthroughs always come at the right time. Electricity, airplanes, and antibiotics, and the internet, AI, each of these showed up when humanity was ready for it. And the same is true in your own life. When you shift your thinking, opportunities appear. They don't come out of nowhere. They come from the formless, responding to your consciousness. Wattles says, it will not let him go without any good thing. That's Psalm 84, verse 11. No good thing will he withhold from them that walk uprightly. Spirit doesn't want to starve you of health, wealth, or joy. If you feel a lack, it's not punishment, it's misalignment. Now here's a big point. Humanity as a whole is rich, and there is no shortage on earth. But individuals experience poverty when they don't walk in the certain way. The law of wealth is neutral, but it requires alignment. And here's the mystical core. Formless substance is intelligent. It is stuff which thinks. It is alive and always impelled toward more life. That's why we always want more. More love, more money and wealth, more creativity, more expression. That desire isn't greed, it's the nature of life itself. A tree doesn't apologize for spreading its branches. A river doesn't feel guilty for overflowing. Expansion is life's language. The whole universe was made this way. Formless living substance throws itself into form just to express itself more fully. Every star, every plant, every invention, every galaxy. It's spirit saying, let me show myself in a new way. So when you desire more, you're not being selfish. You're aligning with the same impulse that created the universe. Here's your reminder. I am in partnership with formless intelligence. Every genuine desire I have is life seeking fuller expression through me. No good thing is withheld from me. Abundance is my birthright.
The universe is a great living presence, always moving inherently toward more life and fuller functioning. nature is formed for the advancement of life. Its driving motive is to increase. For this cause, everything that can possibly support life is bountifully provided. There can be no lack, unless God contradicts himself and nullifies his own works. You are not kept poor by a lack of supply. In fact, as I'll demonstrate shortly, even the resources of the formless supply are at the command of the man or woman who will act and think in a certain way.
Okay, we've reached the end of the chapter, and it wasn't very long, but it was surely strong. This last passage is where Wattles moves from describing formless substance in abstract terms to declaring what it really is: a living presence whose very nature is increase. The universe is not a dead machine. It is a great living presence, always moving, always pressing toward more life and fuller expression. Nature itself is formed for the advancement of life. Its driving motive is to increase. That's why seeds become trees. That's why rivers carve valleys. That's why galaxies keep expanding. That's why you feel the desire for more. Your desire for more is not greed, it is life itself, reaching for fuller expression through you. And here's what Wattles tells us: everything that can possibly support life has been bountifully provided: air, water, food, resources, energy. Spirit has already arranged it in abundance, so there can be no true lack unless God contradicts himself, and God cannot contradict himself. For lack to be real, spirit would have to stop being spirit. Creation would have to shut down its own law of increase. That will never happen. So when we experience lack, it is not because supply has run out. It's because we have not yet come into harmony with the law of increase. And here's the promise: even the invisible resources of formless supply are at the command of the man or woman who will think and act in a certain way. That means the field of infinite supply is not reserved for elites. It's not just for CEOs, politicians, or the lucky few. It belongs to anyone who aligns their mind and actions with Spirit's law of increase. This is John 10, verse 10. I have come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly. That is the cosmic truth. The universe wants you to have life, and to have it more abundantly. Here's your reminder: the universe is alive, and it wants me to expand. Increase is the law of my life. I prosper as nature prospers. Scarcity is an illusion. Supply flows to me when I align with the certain way. That brings us to the end of chapter 3. It may be a short chapter, but as you can feel, it's loaded with power. Wattles wanted us to know this. No monopoly can block your supply. No system can fence you out. The universe itself is alive and always moving toward more life, more increase, more abundance. Scarcity is a thought form. And when you refuse to sign that contract with lack, you step into the certain way. Carry this with you. Your opportunity is not stolen. Your supply is not short. Your desire for more is holy because it is Spirit pressing through you. I'll see you in the next chapter, where Wattles will take us even deeper into the science of getting rich. Until then, remember, you are walking in abundance. You are moving in rhythm with Spirit, and divine favor is already flowing to you. Thanks for joining me. You've been activated, and 528 Hertz is raising your vibration now.